What is going on, YouTube? It is your boy MrBaboon back today with a reaction video. Today we are doing a little mini series. We are reacting to Joan. We got 5 parts. We are doing the part 1 today. This should be out, I think, this Friday. So you guys should be seeing this Friday. So, hopefully you guys are excited. I'm excited. I enjoy reacting to these mini series and all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully you guys enjoy watching these. I enjoy reacting to these and learning stuff about, you know, I mean, you guys know. So much fun. So if you guys do want to watch it for you guys yourself, I will have the video down below in the description and the channel down below in the description. If you guys want to check it out, you guys can. So with that being said, hang on, we gotta like.
July 1st, 1392. King Charles VI is riding at the head of his army, and the leper has been following them for a half hour. "Turn back, noble king," the leper shouts. "You are betrayed." Those words again and again. As the minutes pass, Charles begins to sweat. Is he in danger? This whole expedition is to punish a man who'd tried to assassinate his best friend. He eyes his courtiers. He feels them watching him, but when he looks, they look away. It is so hot. A page, drowsy from the long ride, drops a lance. It clangs when it hits the ground. "Traitors!" Charles shouts, drawing his blade. He rushes forward, hacking at his retinue. Stunned and unwilling to draw swords on their most Christian king, all the courtiers can do is wrestle him out of the saddle. But by the time they pin him to the ground, 5 men are dead. Charles stops struggling. His eyes roll back in coma. The courtiers exchange looks. The king is in the grip of madness. And soon, France will follow him.
Well, okay. Very, very interesting already.
Before the miracles began, before the siege of Orleans, before the saints appeared to a peasant girl, France was a country cursed by God. And that began with King Charles the Beloved, or as he became known, Charles the Mad. Because that first psychotic episode would not be the last for the French king. At times he was perfectly lucid, able to rule as he used to. But then he would slip, failing to recognize friends and family, not understanding that he was the king of France, instead insisting he was St. George, or wearing thick clothes with iron bands sewn in because he thought he was made of glass and might shatter if touched. And on occasion, he would run wild through the halls of his residence. Court officials had to brick up entrances to keep him inside. With Charles incapacitated and often confined, rule fell to a council of regents overseen by Queen Isabeau. And this wasn't actually the worst time for France. There had been a truce in the 100 Years' War, and the country was at peace. People were thinking about taxes, not armies. Because here's the thing. While Charles was unable to rule consistently, he wasn't dead. The crown hadn't passed to his sons. It was all about the council, and as councils will do, this one split into factions. Particularly as the older generation of council members died, leaving their seats to their children. 2 main groups emerged, the Armagnacs and the Burgundians, both led by men of the royal bloodline. The Armagnacs were led by the king's younger brother Louis, Duke of Orleans. Powerful, rich, and famous for his voracious pursuit of women. He was extremely close to the queen. Suspiciously close, some said. Even whispering that her 3rd son Charles was actually fathered by Louis.
Death is not an option. Sound sensor out.
Economically, they wanted France to remain the traditional agricultural country that it was. On the other side were the Burgundians, led by the king's cousin, John the Fearless, Duke of Burgundy. The Burgundians held large parts of northeast France, where there was heavy English influence due to the invasions of the 100 Years' War. And they were tied economically to Britain via the textile trade. So perhaps, not surprisingly, they were interested in developing France along an English model with strong cities and increased emphasis on pasture land and sheep farming. They also supported different popes. Yeah, there were like 3 popes running around at this time. It's a long story, we won't get into it. But their issues weren't all ideological. Other things that came between them were very, very personal. Rumor had it that Louis had tried to seduce John's wife. But the gist of the whole
Bro, homie was about to hit him in the back with a chair. Just, bang! Bro.
The thing is that a decade into the council's existence, these factions were locked in a struggle to control the throne. Relations between the factions had been curdling for years, when Louis of Orleans, leveraging his close relationship with the Queen, started minimizing Burgundian influence on the council, while also buying up land in the Burgundian sphere of influence. This also meant diverting royal gifts from John to himself, until Louis had an annual income 5 times larger than his rival. John the Fearless responded by adopting populist policies, whipping up the commoners and merchants by promising to abolish taxes that, he said, did nothing but pay for the extravagant court life. With tensions escalating, the two sides kidnapped members of the royal family, including the Dauphin, the crown prince, back and forth.
Oh, wait, what? What?
Finally, they openly threatened violence. Everyone needed to cool down, the court decided. So on November 20th, 1407, the two parties reconciled in a court ceremony. But as they made their vows, a hit squad living in a rented house talked through their plans, sharpened their weapons, and bought masks. 3 days later, a shoemaker's wife looks out her window and saw Louis of Orleans leaving the Queen's residence, a song on his lips. She looked away, heard shouts, and looked back. She saw Louis pulled from the saddle, thrown to his knees, surrounded by men with swords and axes. They struck him again and again, beating him like a mattress, until a man in a red hood told them to scatter. The attack was so brutal that they had to scoop bits of Louis into his coffin. His severed hand, which he'd raised to defend himself, became a symbol of Burgundian savagery. And John the Fearless owned it, arguing that he'd ordered the killing for the good of the crown in order to remove an evil and corrupt tyrant who defiled the Queen and plotted to murder the king with necromancy. Charles, reportedly in a bout of mental illness, pardoned John and called for a truce. A year later, the factions were embroiled in a civil war. For a decade, the fighting would start and stop, with truces called and broken on an almost annual basis. And this civil conflict reached unheard of levels of viciousness. Soldiers scoured the country, sacking villages and looting everything, even the clothes off of the backs of slaughtered peasants. Paris changed hands multiple times, with poor Queen Isabeau having to hop between factions in order to protect the inheritance of her rapidly diminishing stock of sons. The Dauphins of France seemed to be cursed, with one dying of disease every few years. And then disaster struck. Seeing his opening, Henry V invaded the divided France in 1415, as can be seen in our History of England series. But his campaign quickly bogged down, and an Armagnac force caught him as he was trying to march to the safety of an English-held city. The Armagnacs had more men, and the English were exhausted, demoralized, and riddled with disease. But there was the mud, and the rain of arrows. The French knights were heavily armored, but their horses were not. And by the time the armored Armagnac forces slogged into the battle line, they were so exhausted they could barely lift their weapons. Men who fell, drowned in the sucking earth. The flower of French nobility, 3 dukes, 6 counts, and 90 other nobles died in a single day. Many others were captured. But for France, the disaster continued when the Burgundians, seeing an opportunity, broke the fragile truce and made a grab for Paris. Instead of uniting, the factions played the blame game. The Burgundians argued that the Armagnacs had lost a crucial battle, and the Armagnacs claimed they would have won if the Burgundians had bothered to show up. The civil war continued, and the English advanced, with the Burgundians often standing to the side, an English ally in all but name. Soon, there were 2 Frances, with 2 capitals. Every level of society, from the plowmen in the fields to the academics in Paris, chose sides. And as France split, the royal family did too. Though originally an Armagnac, Queen Isabeau defected to the Burgundians after her former allies imprisoned her. But her surviving son, Charles VII, now Dauphin, despite rumors of illegitimacy, was literally married to the Armagnacs. His stepmother, Yolande of Aragon, was a major string puller in the Armagnac faction. So when Isabeau ceded her powers as regent to John the Fearless, and the two combined forces to drive the Armagnacs out of Paris, they were also driving out her son and heir. He had to flee amid the monumental slaughter of the city's fall. The Burgundians held the capital and the king and queen, The Armagnacs held their air. This could not continue, it was decided. The Dauphins invited John the Fearless to peace talks. The initial approaches in July of 1419 went well, and the two agreed to meet on a bridge that September in order to hash out a final settlement, in order to end the Civil War. The confrontation was tense. John knelt. The Dauphin rebuffed him. Then something happened. Perhaps John put a hand on his sword as a mark of respect. Or perhaps the Dauphin's Armagnac attendants just claimed he did. An Armagnac man buried an axe in John's face. The attendants beat him like a mattress and cut off his hand as John's assassins had done to their own lord a decade before. The Dauphin claimed that it was not planned, but he had motive, had arranged the means, and had the opportunity. Most of France, including his own parents, believed that their heir to the throne had lured a duke into peace negotiations and murdered him. So the new Duke of Burgundy made his flirtations with the English official and entered an alliance with King Henry. And the French royal family did too. After all, their designated heir was a murderer. No other issue could inherit the throne. But Henry had a claim. So a year after John's slaying, the King and Queen of France disinherited their son, married the English king to their daughter, and officially declared Henry and his children the inheritors of the French crown. France was more split than ever, its throne given over to a foreign occupier. Every year the English and their allies pushed further south, and in a small village, a girl named Joan began to speak with saints.
Well, I mean, I will say, I'm definitely intrigued. The first one was definitely interesting. And I'm definitely intrigued on to see what goes next. You know what I mean? But I mean, like, damn. I mean, it really did kind of seem like he did kind of have it planned. Because, I mean, like, but I mean, at the same time, I think it was just like, a part of me thinks it was just bad timing, wrong time, wrong place type thing. You know what I mean? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys stay safe. Positivity is key. Motivation is key. Happiness is key. I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys stay safe. Check the description. I got the video and the channel link down there. If you guys want to check it out, you guys can. I will see you guys in the next video. You guys stay safe. See you guys in the next one.